I wanted to come on here and do another video that I've been kind of putting off and needing to do at the same time. And I want to do it before next week because that's when our appointment is. So I want to talk about trying to conceive probably what is our last final child, hopefully. Meaning hopefully I get pregnant. Just a little backstory on us. We got married in 2006 and we tried to conceive from day one. After 6 months or so, nothing had happened. We saw a fertility doctor, just a local doctor. He laid out a plan for us that honestly I didn't want to do it at the time. You know, anyone that has been through infertility knows that it's very invasive. There is nothing secretive between you and your doctor. I mean, it's very invasive. The procedures, the tests, the things you have to do. I just wasn't ready to do it at the time. So we waited probably another year or so before we actually went back and proceeded with the tests. I did the test where they put dye, they'd put a catheter in through your uterus. They put dye in there, and that's to make sure the fallopian tubes are open, that there's no scar tissue or blockages or anything like that. I did that. That was fine. We did a postcoital test, and we found that there was no live sperm. My husband did like sperm counts, things like that. The other thing that I did is in order to switch to injections, because before that we had tried IUIs with like Clomid and things like that, which is very, popular. One of the first things they have you try. I had to have surgery. I had to have exploratory surgery, which I had at the same time that I was having my gallbladder out. They were able to do it at the same time, which was nice. I didn't have to go through two separate surgeries. Hold on! But that's what my doctor, he required that in order to switch to injections. So we did that at the point that we needed to switch to injections. With my first son, I conceived him through an IUI on Gonal F is what the injection was that I was taking. I took that in conjunction. Okay, Big Mouse! I took that in conjunction with Clomid and trigger shots. So I did that, and I probably had done maybe 2 before him. I got pregnant for him, and I probably did 3 or 4 after him. We were given the go-ahead to go ahead and try to conceive. Probably, it was maybe like 3 or 4 months after he was born. So we tried again. We did a couple IUIs, like I said. After 3 or 4 times of them not working, we met with the doctor again, and he recommended that we switch to IVF. I was very, very, very super lucky, and our insurance covered that, so it wasn't a huge expense. It wasn't a huge problem to go through the IVF process. I have videos on my channel if you want to look back about the retrieval, and I kind of described that a little bit. At this point, it's been probably 4 years since I had the retrievals done. I did 2 of them, and with those retrievals, I did 2 fresh embryo fresh transfers. What are you doing, Turkey? Neither of those worked. At that point, I was pretty much done. We were able to get embryos that they were able to freeze, which again, we were very lucky to have. Some people don't. The way that it generally works is you get the retrieval done. The retrieval, they get so many eggs, and I had a lot of eggs. Like the first time, I want to say like I had 18, second time I had 22 or something. I think I have videos on that as well. And then you lose like half of them through each process. So from the egg process, only like half of them fertilize. Then once they fertilize, only half of them develop, divide to split the cells like they need to. And after that entire process was done twice, we ended up with 5 frozen embryos. So the embryos sat there for about 2 years. Long story short, like I said, I thought I was done. A coworker had said to me, "Oh, but Nate can help. He's old enough now." So I decided to go through with it because that was always, every person that goes along this journey has to have like their boundaries, I guess, if you will, what you will and won't do. And those can change over time because at first I said I would never, ever, ever go injection. I would never do the injections. If it came to that, I just wouldn't do it. We would just accept the fact. Hold on, please. Cool, go eat it. I don't want one. Thank you so much. I don't want one. You'll eat it. I would. I don't want it. I don't like those. Mommy's not offended. I don't want to eat it. You'll eat. Go give it to Nate. Maybe Nate wants it. I swear I'd never go the injection route, but as, I think that as you just think you're a little, it's kind of like gambling, I would say. You just think you're a little closer, you're going to hit the jackpot, so you just keep going. But we did that. We decided to go the injection route, obviously, and did IVF. Something else I should mention, I have PCOS. They said that very soon, very early on. I actually remember back in my 20s, one of my gynecologists saying it, saying it would be hard to conceive. I remember that. But it never really, I mean, at that point I wasn't ready to have kids, so it wasn't, you know what I mean, a big thing. So basically, like I said, we have 2 kids. I have a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old. And when I got pregnant for Keegan, they took 3 of the frozen embryos and transferred them. And something I find absolutely hilarious is that when I went in, when you go in, I've had different doctors do the transfers and the retrievals and things like that each time. And where I go, there's like, the top doctor is the one that actually transferred the embryos when I got pregnant for Keegan, my youngest son. And he came in the room, he said, "Excuse my language, but your embryos look fucking great." And so that was very reassuring. But egg quality and embryo quality, it does and it doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes people get pregnant with really low quality eggs or low quality embryos. Sometimes they have the best embryos ever and it doesn't work. There's a God factor in there, obviously. I have to look back. I don't know if I've ever done a video on the frozen embryo transfer and everything that was involved with that. My doctor was into some cutting edge stuff, some policy or some research and things like that he had seen with positive results. So I tried some things that I had not tried with the frozen embryo. Actually, in my age group, I'm 39. At the time I was going to get pregnant with Keegan, I would have been 36. And they did it like a wash of your uterus. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I got mailed some solution. You go up there and they basically put a catheter in your uterus and they spray this stuff in there that's supposed to like prepare the walls of your uterus for implantation. I also stuck to a very high fat diet after the transfer for, I don't remember how many weeks, maybe a month. Like he said, eat bacon, eat lots and lots of bacon. He said keep the bacon grease and fry stuff in the bacon. And it obviously worked because Keegan's here. So, but they had done studies to show that for whatever reason that worked. I honestly can't remember what. So basically that brings us to today. We have, so we had 5 embryos. We used 3 with Keegan, and we have 2 left. We feel like our family is complete for the most part. If we didn't have any more kids, we would feel, happy that we have the kids that we do. We feel very blessed. There's a lot of people that go through this process and don't get what we got. So, I mean, obviously we're happy with that. We have talked, initially when I started this process, like I was saying, I got a little off on a tangent there, but initially when I started this process, one of the, rules, if you will, that I had is that I did not want to throw embryos away. I did not want to donate embryos. These are all options that you have. Funny story is that before I got pregnant for Keegan, we had actually got the paperwork to donate the embryos not to a couple, not to have like another couple use them, but to use them for research. What they would do is, or not research, but like embryologists, that's what they're called, would use them for practice, basically, to teach new embryologists how to do whatever they do. So, I actually got the paperwork, and you have to, have it signed by, notary public and all that, and I actually never went through with it. Good things. It all happens for a reason. But, yeah, so where we're at is that we have the 2 frozen embryos. And I would love a little girl. I would love a little girl so much. I want a little girl. Whether or not it'll work, I don't know. I'm older now. Obviously, I'm almost 40. So we have an appointment next week. Basically what happens is because it's been so long in between the appointments with the IVF people, you have to go back for like an initial consultation. When I did that for Keegan, they did some blood work. We just kind of talked about like what we were going to do going forward. And that appointment is when he told me in my age group at the time, I was 36, that I actually had a better chance of... What? What? Okay, go see Nady. I actually had a better chance of conceiving from a frozen embryo transfer than from a fresh, which I never was told before. And I'm glad that he told me that, because basically what he said is because with the frozen, you can focus totally on the environment to try to get the implantation. You can, you know, they have you on certain medications. Like I said, did the uterus wash. My diet and all that was completely focused on getting an embryo to implant. Whereas when you're doing the fresh cycle with the retrieval, everything is focused on getting as many eggs as they can, and they can't, there's such a short turnaround that you can't focus so much on the implantation. So it worked. But like I said, now I'm almost 40 years old. We have an appointment next week to start everything again. I do not look forward to everything that's involved with it. It is a very, very complex thing. At one point when I was pregnant with Keegan, I think I knew I was pregnant, I was up to like 5 shots a day, because even after you get pregnant, you have to, people that struggle with infertility are at a higher risk of miscarriage. So you take progesterone and you do all kinds of fun things. I took blood thinners because sometimes what they think causes miscarriages is blood clots in your uterus. So I took blood thinners for 12 weeks, I think, is what I did blood thinners for. Progesterone, I think I did for maybe 10 weeks. I did progesterone a little bit longer. Those are fun shots. But it is very involved. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. But at the same time, the reward is huge. I would not change anything, and I would, I would absolutely do it again. So that's where we're at. So we meet with the doctor next week. Hopefully Paul will be able to go with me. If not, it's not a huge deal. I don't, honestly, it's not a big deal because it's not anything, you know what I mean? It's basically just a technicality. You have to go talk to them, and they talk about like your past pregnancies and, you know, where you're at, what's happening, where you're going with this. The one thing I would never probably do again is the retrieval. I already have 2 kids, and I would not. The retrieval was tough. It was very tough. And like I said, I don't know if I have a video on the retrieval. I do have a video on the retrieval. It was tough. And the second time was worse than the first. If the first time was like the second time, I probably wouldn't have done it again, because it was tough. But the first time went way smoother. I had less pain. It was just way nicer than the second time. So yeah, next week I'll go. I'm going to meet with him. We'll establish a plan. It always seems to happen in the fall. Both my boys are summer babies, and that's why I always start this process in the fall for whatever reason. There's something about the fall that makes me want to have a baby. So we're going to see this, and I'm going to, I obviously will do videos as we go along the TTC journey, but it's not going to be a long one because at my age, I'll basically have one shot at it. IVF, the way that it works, the process to the transfer is like a 6 weeks long process that you do a series of medication and blood work and all that stuff just to make sure all your hormones are at the right levels. And it's a process to get to the actual day of transfer. And then after the transfer, you're taking all kinds of shots to try to get the little embryos to implant. And then if you are lucky enough to have them implant, then you're on a whole bunch of other medication to get them to stay there. So it is a process. It is definitely not something you enter into lightly. Definitely not something that is a quick decision, but we're going to go ahead and get that started. We'll go through that process and see what happens. Whatever happens, I'm okay with. I really am. I love my boys, and I feel, if they're the only kids I have, I feel completely complete with them. Hold on, peace! If I end up having another baby, okay, hold on. another baby, that'd be great as well. We joke about twins because there's 2 embryos left, but we'll see. So that's where we're at. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a pre-TTC video, and I will do a follow-up as soon as we meet with the doctor who puts us on. I'm sure it's going to be the same game plan. I can't imagine. I mean, the nice thing is things change as they do additional research, and it's, you know, a field where there is a lot of research and a lot of progress in. So, but I can't, I mean, I don't know, maybe things have changed a lot in the last couple of years, but I can't imagine that's the case. But yeah, that's it. We're going to try to have a baby. So come along that journey with us also as we do a million other things and see if we add an addition to our family.